Evening, Matt. How you doing, bud?
Good evening, Ken. Can you hear me okay?
Loud and clear.
All right. Well, good evening, everyone. So thank you for making time to join us on a Tuesday night. It is 8:30, yep, or excuse me, 6:30 Pacific time, 8:30 Central time. We're excited to have you all with us today. Hopefully everybody got their meal okay. Um, the we do have Jason and Derek in the background checking in with people just in case there was an issue with a meal or something like that. So if you do have an issue with a meal, just pop it in the chat. We'll do our best to follow up with the restaurant. A couple housekeeping items before we get started. We're going to absolutely take questions. Feel free to put them in the Q&A as we go. While I'm presenting, Ken will answer the Q&A. While Ken's presenting, I'll answer the Q&A. So we'll make sure we have you covered. But in terms of the workshop tonight, we will go less than an hour. Ken will kick things off. He'll go about 7 minutes, and then we'll jump it into Social Security. Ken's going to just kind of introduce everyone to Mission Financial Planners, who we are, what we do, and then we'll go ahead and run with Social Security for the rest of the night. But again, feel free to ask questions as we go. Put them in the Q&A. We will answer them live once we're done with the presentation, or alternatively in the chat. And then just a friendly reminder, your cameras are off, your microphones are off. You do not have to worry about anyone seeing or hearing anything that's going on in your home. So you could have a dog losing its mind right now. Don't worry, nobody can hear it. It's okay. But with that, I'll turn it over to Ken to kick things off.
Perfect. Thank you, Matt. So, everybody, imagine you walk into work one day and you're excited. You're coming in with a bouquet of flowers, a bunch of balloons, because it's a special day. It's your best friend's birthday. It's her 62nd birthday, as a matter of fact. And y'all are all set up, and you got everybody brought a potluck, and you see her come down the hallway. And instead of stopping to say hello, she makes a beeline past everybody. She goes right into the boss's office. Everybody's a little flabbergasted, but nevertheless, she's in there. And the first thing she does, she drops down her resignation papers and her pension paperwork saying, "Boss, today's my last day. I want to retire." Boss is completely caught off guard. Like, well, Stacy, you're only 62. By retiring early, you're taking in and locking in a reduced amount from your pension for the rest of your life. And she says, "I know. Well, did you know that by doing this, you might also be reducing your cost of living adjustments as well?" She smiles and says, "I know. Do you know that this might be impacting your partner for the rest of their life as well? Because the choice you make might minimize what they get for the rest of their life." And she says, "I know." Okay, hold on. Did you know though that your pension is has some tax advantages with it, and by claiming it earlier might reduce some of those tax savings over the rest of your life? You guessed it. She knows. Boss says, "Are you sure?" She says, "Yeah." All right. He countersigns the paperwork, and the birthday party begins for her 62nd birthday, her last day of work. Now, ask yourself, why do you think she was so confident? Because she had a financial plan, a real financial plan. Because all things that the boss was mentioning are completely true. And as you can guess, they're completely true about Social Security too. The decisions you make have impacts across the board for yourself, your partner, your taxes, and everything in between. And an honest to good financial plan addresses all of them. Everybody, I'm Kenneth Hamilton. I'm one of the managing members with Mission Financial Planners. I'll quickly talk about three key areas that we help our clients with. The first is who we are. I'll dabble a little bit into the tax advantages of Social Security, and then I'll address what we consider as a full financial plan. So everybody at Mission Financial Planners that you would be meeting with are certified financial planners, which means we are fiduciaries and we are cross-trained in multiple areas. Myself, Matt, Jason, the other managing member, each of us have our own specialties, whether it's income, insurance, business owners, taxation, and we're always adding more skill sets to ourselves as well as to our team. At the end of the day, if you had a choice of who you'd like to work with, would it be an individual who's a journalist or a team of specialists that can address each of your needs? You're welcome to make that choice. So let's dabble into Social Security. Really quickly, there are three ways that Social Security can be taxed. First, it can be completely income tax free on the federal level. For those of you in California, or actually all of you in California, it's also exempt on the state level. We work in, I think, 30 some odd states, so I forget which states, but everybody here is California. So it is tax exempt on the state level, but it can also be 100% exempt on the federal level. Okay, if your adjusted gross income is a little bit higher, 50% of your Social Security could be completely income tax free. But worst case scenario, 85% of your Social Security will apply to your federal taxable income, and 15% is guaranteed to be tax free. So if you had a choice, knowing worst case scenario, 15% is tax free, would you want that amount to be smaller or larger? Something to think about. And then finally is understanding what a full financial plan is. And when we're building a financial plan, it really addresses the areas on your screen. And everybody should have received this in their packet. If you haven't received it, it's in the mail. And if you don't have it by Friday, let us know. We'll make sure and resend it. When we build a financial plan, it really focuses on the five main areas, starting from the left. And depending on your needs, it could also focus on the two on the right. First one's income, and that's Social Security. That's your pensions. That's your real estate. Understanding when do we start your pension? When do we start your Social Security or your partner's? Is your real estate generating as much income as it could be? But truly figuring that plan out, that's step one. Replacing your income from your paycheck is without a doubt one of the most important areas. Second area we focus on is your investments. Now that we've addressed your income, we have surplus assets. How are our investments growing? Every single person I talk with, the first thing they say is, I'm good, I'm diversified. But when you actually take a look at their holdings, especially the way that the Magnificent Seven stocks have really exploded over the last couple of years, you'd be surprised at how less diversified you probably are. Not that it's bad, it's just something we need to be aware of and plan for. Then we take a look at your insurance. And when we're talking insurance, we're taking a look at everything from your medical insurance from when you retire at 60 until you get to 65, your Medicare supplements when you are 65, your long-term care. We're also taking a look at your property and casualty insurance on your homestead, your car, your umbrellas, but also your rental properties. We'll take a look at your taxes because it's not about what you make, it's about what you keep. And especially there's a lot of volatility and questions around how the tax code's going to change. And again, we're able to provide the insights on what that ultimately is. And then finally, your estate plan. It's all about passing on your assets to the next generation in a smooth, meaningful way without causing any unnecessary tension. So the reason why your best friend was able to retire at 62 was because she knew the answer to all of those questions. She was taking a pay cut. She was impacting her spouse. She was doing all those things, but it's because she counterbalanced it with all the other things that you're seeing on the screen. And so today is the first step of getting to know each of y'all. We're starting with Social Security, but everybody, we have our follow-up meeting happening within the next 2 weeks. Very excited to have your conversations with you one-on-one. I'll be in the chat. Matt, did I miss anything? Oh, and of course, you can't have a Zoom call without somebody talking on mute.
Exactly. Where would we be if it wasn't 2025 and someone was on mute, including me? So, no, Ken, I think you nailed it. And thank you so much for sharing all that, folks. What Ken said, right, especially at the end, what he said about this is really just the first step. Tonight is just going to be Social Security planning. We are only going to talk about Social Security. We are not here to do anything other than inform you. So look at me as a teacher in this. One of the credentials I'll highlight, you probably saw it in the emails we sent out this afternoon. Ken and I both have Social Security credentials. Between the two of us, we have been teaching Social Security classes now for almost, get a load of this, Ken, almost 30 years between the two of us. So if you're here to learn about Social Security and how that fits into your retirement income plan, you are absolutely in the right spot. Feel free again to ask questions as we go, but let's go ahead and jump into it. So first thing, ladies, let's talk about confidence. How confident are you that you are going to be able to fully retire with a lifestyle that you consider comfortable? Now, don't focus so much on the pure numbers here, but just look at the charts. The purple area on those charts is the very confident women on the left, men on the right. And you can see it's about half as many women as men are very confident about the financial aspects of retirement. And that number plummets even further. And you can see right here, unmarried women are at 11% in terms of their confidence. The challenge for most unmarried women is pretty straightforward. Most of them were married at one point in their life. And without both incomes coming into the home, it really changes a lot of considerations for people. One of the reasons we send the mailer out, and this is a question we get quite often, is why did you send a mailer to women? I actually think it's because our industry has done a terrible job of reaching out to you directly. This is a quote from MetLife from about 15 years ago, and you can see that this was the attitude financial services had about women. And that is, hey, you have a lot more concerns about your retirement security, but you don't do what you need to do to plan for it. Well, I'm sorry, you may have been running a business, you may have been the head of the household, you may have been working full-time, raising kids, working full-time in your career, working 2 full-time jobs between your career and raising kids. But oh, shame on you, you didn't know what a Roth IRA was. Or shame on you, you didn't understand how capital gains tax worked. So we really have a fundamental issue with that, and I'm not going to speak for Ken or Jason on the call, but in my own family, I've seen women be discounted simply because they were women. My mom is a perfect example of this. She grew up in a farming family in the Midwest. And from about the time she was 3 years old, her parents made it very clear to her that her 2-year-old brother, my uncle, who was a year younger than her, he was going to inherit the family farm. She was going to get nothing. And they made that very clear to her from day one. The reason why? Because she was a girl. So I've seen it in my own family. I saw the damage that did, the way it shook my mom's confidence. And my mom is a super smart, super capable person, but that you could tell, and even to this day, and her parents have both since passed away, that still bothers her. That's a big family thing, right? But women, ladies, you experience this every day as well. Another example, my wife and I had our backsplashes and our countertops redone in our kitchen about 18 months ago. My wife is super capable. She's an attorney. She was a geologist before she was an attorney. She definitely runs the household. I go where I'm told, when I'm told. But I'll never forget, the tile guy was standing in our kitchen. My wife asked him a question, and just like she was over here, right? And ladies, raise your hand if you've ever experienced something like this. So she's over here. She asked a question. I'm standing over there. Okay. You know what he did? She asked the question from over here. Now, I'm the tile guy. She asked the question from over here. He turned to me. He actually turned his back to her and started answering the question. So, ladies, raise your hand if you have ever experienced something like that. And it could even be, hey, you went to go buy a car or something, and you had a male companion with you, and suddenly the salesperson is talking to the guy, right? I'm sure you've experienced that at some point in your life. So that's what we're here to try to prevent, is making sure your voice is heard. Now, you have some realities as women that we don't have to deal with as guys. One is lower lifetime earnings. Let's say you had children and you just took a year off. Well, that's a year away from work. You missed out on a pay raise. You missed out on promotion opportunities. That's going to result in lower lifetime earnings. The other reality, of course, is that women don't get paid as much as men to do the same job, but that's a whole bigger can of worms. But lower lifetime earnings. That translates into, if you have a pension, and by the way, Social Security is a pension. I want you to think about it as nothing more than a federally funded pension. But Social Security looks at your best 35 years of income. If you have lower lifetime earnings, lower pension, lower Social Security check. And you take better care of yourselves than we do. So you live longer than we do. Now, I am not at all trying to say people need to work a few more years in retirement, but what I am saying is that if you can do some of the things you see on the screen, let's say you work a year or two longer, if you do some of the things you can see on the screen, one of the actuaries, and this is how interesting we are, we follow an actuary named Wade Pfau, who you can see right here. This is one of his books. This is called How Much Can I Spend in Retirement? So Wade Pfau is brilliant. He studied this. What is a year of doing this? How does it impact your retirement? If you can do all four of these things for 1 year, like work one extra year, it's like adding 3 years to your retirement plan. So it has a real impact if you can do these things. Ladies, I'm not saying you should or you have to, but it can have a meaningful impact if you choose to do so. But what is the value of your Social Security? Well, first of all, Social Security offers you income that you cannot outlive. Now, let me elaborate on that sentence about you cannot outlive it. Social Security is not going anywhere, regardless of what, whether you like what's going on in Washington or you really don't like what's going on in Washington, it's okay. Social Security will not go anywhere. And the reason why I firmly believe that is there's no politician who is dumb enough to sign off on killing one of the two most popular programs the federal government offers. The most popular program, believe it or not, is Medicare. Social Security is a very close second. And all I know is people like me, people like you have paid into Social Security for many, many years. We're the people who vote. It would be political suicide for them to try to kill Social Security. In addition to that, you can also look up a lady by the name of Irene Triplett. Irene Triplett was the last surviving recipient of an American Civil War pension. So the American Civil War ended in 1865, 160 years ago. And she didn't die, I think, until 22 or maybe even 23. The US government was still paying the survivor pension. And if you want to know more about that, I can always elaborate more. But look up Irene Triplett. It's a fascinating story. But the US government has a very strong track record of backing its pension guarantees. So it's going to be there. Now, if your monthly income is $2,000 a month, get into what's on the slide here. And you've seen this. I mean, you were looking at this while I was talking. But if you live just 10 more years, you're going to get over $260,000 from Social Security. You live 20 years, you're going to get almost $600,000. And if you live 30 years, you're going to get about $1 million. And folks, that's just assuming a 2% cost of living adjustment. That means that benefit's growing every year. And in 10 years, that $2,000 a month is closer to $2,500. It's about $3,000 in 20 years, and it's about $3,600 in 30 years. So we're going to talk about 4 strategies: marriage, divorce, widowhood, and remarriage. Okay. We had a couple people in the chat as we were getting going asking if we were going to talk about survivor benefits. We will definitely talk about survivor benefits. Before we jump into that, though, a couple things you want to ask yourself about Social Security. The first is, do you qualify for benefits on your own work record? In other words, did you pay into Social Security for at least 10 years? Second thing, are you currently married? And if so, has your spouse started getting their Social Security benefit? The reason why is because you've got more options now if you are currently married. And it is the federal definition of marriage. You have to be legally married for both of you to qualify for Social Security. And then on top of that, have there been any prior marriages? Did the marriage end? Well, how did it end, right? Was it by death or divorce? And the reason why we need to know how it ended is the rules are very different depending on how it ended. Depending on your answers to those questions, you could get one or more of these benefits at different points in your life: the retirement, the spousal, the divorced spouse, or the survivor benefit. Just focus on this though. You personally can only get one benefit at a time. The way you coordinate those benefits, that's what's going to determine your overall Social Security income. Okay, a couple of definitions. We're going to talk about full retirement age, and we're also going to talk about your primary insurance amount. Full retirement age, this is when you get 100% of your benefits. So it's funny, 15 years have gone by since I started teaching this. There's fewer and fewer people born before 1960 who attend these workshops. There's still a few, but you can see here, if you were born between 43 and 54, your full retirement age was 66. It went up by 2 months in the intervening years. And then from 1960 and beyond, all of us born in those years, 67. This is an interesting point, this 67. And the reason why is because people ask me all the time, well, Social Security might not go away, but aren't they going to change it? Well, the last time they made major changes, like when they put this into place, was in the mid 70s. So if, 1975 or so, but go back to 1975, they make this change. The only people affected by the 1 year increase in Social Security full retirement age would have been 15 years old at the time. Okay. So that's something that you want to seriously keep in the back of your mind if you're concerned about them changing the system. They're not going to change anything for anyone, I would say, probably 40, at worst case scenario, it'd be probably someone 30 or older isn't going to see a change in the system. Most likely, the changes will come for people who are under the age of 20, like they did last time. Okay, full retirement age, that's the amount you get at, that's when you get 100% of your benefit. Your benefit is actually defined as the primary insurance amount. That's what you get at your full retirement age. So you can see if you're 67, if 67 is your full retirement age, you'll see where that tan arrow is, that's 100%. See how the number goes up if you wait a few extra years? That's because you get an extra 8% per year that you choose to wait. Okay, let's talk about retirement benefits. First thing, to get a copy of your statement, you're going to go to just Social Security, create a login for yourself, and it's a secure login. Pull a copy of your statement. Now, in the next 10 days, everybody on this call is doing a Social Security analysis with either Ken or me. We don't need your Social Security statement to be able to do the Social Security analysis. Let me back up a slide. All we need to know is what are they going to pay you at full retirement age, and how old are you today? Within, and Ken, feel free to jump in here. I believe it's tonight, but it might be tomorrow morning. You're going to get an automated email from us asking us to pre-fill some information for your Social Security analysis. Folks, all you need to put in is your current age and what your full retirement age benefit is going to be. You do not need to share a Social Security number. You do not need to share your actual date of birth if you don't want to. But get that statement. That's going to be super helpful for us to be able to do your analysis. Okay, your benefit. Let's talk about that. It's going to depend on when you file. So what if you file before full retirement age? Well, you get a reduction, and you can see the reduction schedule right here on this slide. But we get a lot of people who file at 62, and they don't really do a ton of analysis before they make that decision. And they don't realize that, oh, I have a 30% reduction that's for the rest of my life. And oh, by the way, that's also going to cause a reduction for my spouse if I have the bigger benefit and I die first. Because if my spouse switches over to get my Social Security as their survivor benefit, well, now we have a problem, because not only did I get a smaller benefit, but so does my spouse after I'm gone. If you want to make sure your spouse gets 100% of whatever you were getting when you pass away, wait till full retirement age. And in this chart, full retirement age is just 67. What if you wait till after full retirement age? Well, after full retirement age, you'll see that it goes all the way up to 70. It's an extra 8% per year. It's not compounded. It just adds up. 8% per year, though. So you'll see at age 70, it's 2480. Sometimes people say, well, it went up more than that, Matt. How did it go up more than 8%? Don't forget, Social Security does cost of living adjustments. You wait from 67 to 68, you don't just go up by 8%. You also go up by whatever the cost of living adjustment was as well. One other reason to delay benefits, just remember you've got those COLAs, which I just mentioned. If you take a look at the COLA, look at the bottom line on this slide, you can see here's age 70, permanent monthly benefit if your full retirement age is 67, and you turn 70 today. Okay, so I'm turning 70 right now. That's when I'm getting my benefit. I'm going to get $24.80 a month. Well, hey, if I'm turning 70, in 13 years, or I'm sorry, 8 years, I don't know where 13 came from, but we're 8 years, right? I'm not going to get 2480, I'm going to get 2906, because I don't just get these increases every year, I also get the cost of living adjustment built into it. So it's two factors, right, that are going into how much your benefit's going to grow. What you also want to consider then is right here, and I'm gonna circle this for you, or I'm gonna use the laser pointer, if we will. I want you to really think about age 95 and age 100. Okay, I really want you to think about these ages. And the reason I say that is when you think about longevity and so on, what you're dealing with in many cases from a longevity standpoint is you're going to live longer than what you think you're going to live. And I know a lot of people really don't like to hear that, but um, the challenge that a lot of people have is they underestimate their life expectancy. We're going to send you a series of emails after the workshop is over. One of the emails talks about Social Security is what's called longevity insurance. And you can see if you get to 95, right, that second line from the bottom, well, if I filed at 62 and I just get that $2,000, that 2% per year, well, I'm at 2,700 by the time I'm 95. At 67, I'm at 3,800. And if I'm at 70, I'm 4,700. Now, what happens a lot of times when I talk about this slide or I talk through this slide is people go, well, I've done the break even analysis on this, and it doesn't matter. I'm taking it at 78. Keep in mind what Ken said. Tax free at the state level, at least 15% is tax free at the federal level. Depending on how you structure your retirement income, you could make the whole thing tax free at the federal level. And if you're able to do that, well, that then will, in many cases, nullify any of the break-even analysis you did. Folks, in 15 years of teaching this class, I have never met one person who did a break-even analysis, but then also applied taxes to the break-even analysis to make sure they were making a good decision. I have heard hundreds of people say, I've done the break-even analysis. And when I ask them, have you done the tax analysis? The answer has always been no. Okay, so this is income that you want to think about for later on in life. Think about the taxation. When to apply. If you apply early, hey, your benefit starts low, stays low. Cost of living adjustments are going to magnify your decision one way or the other. And then the survivor benefits will be impacted by this as well. One other reason not to file before full retirement age. A lot of you are professionals who do very well for yourself, and you're not going to walk away at 62 or 65 or 66. You like what you do and you make a lot of money, and that's great. Well, if you file before full retirement age and you're working, if you make more than about $65,000 a year, the Social Security Administration is just going to withhold your entire benefit. So there's no point in filing early because they do means testing on your income prior to full retirement age. Get to full retirement age, though, you can make as much money as you want. You can file, get your full retirement age benefit, lock in that bigger survivor benefit for your spouse. And for as many years as you want to keep working, you can double dip. You can get your income and you can get your Social Security at the same time with no reductions. So keep this in mind. If you're thinking about filing early, but you're still planning on working, if you make more than about $65,000 a year, which I know most of you do on this call, well, okay, there's really no reason to file early if you're going to continue working. Okay, some spousal benefits. All right, your spousal benefit, that is half of your spouse's primary insurance amount if you apply at your full retirement age, and your spouse needs to have filed as well. So here we have an example of Jack and Jill. Jack's benefit's $2,400 a month. Jack goes and files, he's getting his $2,400. Guess what? When Jill gets to her full retirement age, she can now file as his spouse. She can get a benefit that's equal to $1,200 a month. One question I get is, well, wait a second. What if my benefit's bigger than Jack's? What if mine is the same size or more than half of his? Social Security will not try to hide your benefit from you. They will pay out the biggest benefit that you are eligible for. So keep that in mind, right? If you're the big income earner, but your spouse is 5 or 6 years older than you, they file at full retirement age. Hey, great. They filed at full retirement age. They got their full benefit. You may want to wait till your full retirement age, just file for your benefit at that point. Okay. All right, so I touched on this already, coordinating benefits. If you file before full retirement age, you obviously get your own benefit first, right? They'll add a little bit to it, basically, to get you up to 50% of your spouses if you have a de minimis benefit. But for a lot of people on this call, that's just not the case. All right, so here we have an example of coordinating benefits. So here you can see we've got Jack's benefit is $2,400, Jill's is $800. Jack has filed. Now this question comes up all the time. I have a small benefit. My spouse filed. I can go at 62 and get my own benefit and then switch over and get my own bigger benefit later, right? Partially. You're not going to get everything you thought you were going to get because if you filed early, what ends up happening is that decision to file early is going to follow you and you're going to end up getting a reduced benefit later on anyways. Okay, so here we go. We got Jack at 2,400, Jill's at 800. Jill files at 62. Now remember, she gets a 30% reduction. So you can see right here, she's getting.
Hey, Matt. Your Hey, Matt. Looks like your audio seemed to cut out a little bit.
Am I back?
You're back.
All right. Woo!
Okay.
I'm glad I was paying attention to the beep.
All
So
right. Maybe about 15 seconds back, but you're
oh,
good.
perfect. Okay. Let me just restart this slide. Hey, like you said, Ken, it wouldn't be a Zoom call if we didn't have a technical issue. So we have Jack and Jill. Jack at 2,400, Jill at 800. Jill filed at 62. She gets a reduced benefit, so she's getting $560 a month. Her spousal add-on is going to be half of Jack's benefit, minus her primary insurance amount, and it gets reduced by 35%. Here's that reduction for early claiming. What does that mean? She's going to get an extra $260, which means she gets $820. She's not going to get $1,200, folks. She's going to get $820. And it's less than 50% of his because she took a benefit at 62. That reduction followed her. Okay. If you qualify for both benefits, I said this earlier, you will get the bigger of the two. Social Security is not in the business of hiding benefits from you. Okay. So we have Jack at 2,400, Jill's at 2,000. Jill files at full retirement. She gets $2,000. She's not going to get a spousal benefit because her 2,000 is bigger than the amount she would get as Jack's spouse. So Jack gets 2,400, Jill gets 2,000. Household income from Social Security is $4,400 a month. Okay, I have a Social Security story. Actually, true, funny but true story for you. Years ago, I was asked to go to Omaha, Nebraska to give this presentation. And what ended up happening was at the end of the presentation, this lovely lady came up to me and said, I've got a question. Would you have a few minutes? And I said, well, sure, of course. Well, she proceeds to ask me, well, I've got this friend who had 3 exes and she's not sure what she should do. And I said, well, okay, let me ask you a couple questions. First one, right here. How many of those marriages lasted at least 10 years? She said, all 3 of them. Okay. Second question, is your friend currently unmarried? Yes, but you never know for how long. Okay. Third thing, are those ex-husbands at least 62 years old? Yes, as far as I know. Great. And guess what? Was the last divorce more than 2 years ago? Yes, it was. Oh, fantastic. All your friend has to do is go to Social Security and be able to say, look, here's my 3 exes. Tell me what I'm eligible for while they're alive, and then tell me what I'm eligible for once they've passed away. They'll make sure your friend gets the biggest benefit out of the 3. And you know what she said? She said, that's what I'm going to do. So, it's one of those things that of course, she was just asking for herself. Here's an example taking you through what we just talked through. A divorce occurs. They were married more than 10 years. By the way, as you read through this, you'll see, he's got a benefit of 2,400. She's going to get that $1,200. Take a look at these 3 bullet points at the bottom here. This is huge. So first of all, his benefit doesn't get affected when she files as his ex-wife. Second thing, if he is remarried, his current wife will not be affected by the fact that you filed as his divorced spouse. The third thing, he could have 3 ex-wives out there that he was married to all for 10 years. You file, it's not going to affect any of them either. They're not going to know. Social Security doesn't tell them. Social Security doesn't reduce their benefits. The only way they'll know is through the grapevine. Okay. Now, I'll say this, and I'm going to plug one of Ken's credentials that might not really seem like it fit in with Social Security until we start talking about divorces. Ken is what is called a certified divorce financial analyst, in addition to many of the other credentials he holds, which means he is qualified to work with your family law attorney to be able to make sure that the financial analysis gets done so that you have an equitable separation from your spouse. Your divorce attorney, your family law attorney, should be working with a certified divorce financial analyst who is also a certified financial planner. That is Kenneth Hamilton. The reason why your divorce attorney is probably a great attorney and they are wonderful at divorce law, but that's their specialty. They should be bringing in Ken to help represent you to make sure that whatever settlement is going to come out of that divorce is equitable, not just from a Social Security standpoint. So if you're going through a divorce, you have a friend going through a divorce, a family member, someone you care about, let us know in that one-on-one so that we can make sure that we at least get that introduction to Ken on their behalf. Okay, divorce spouse benefits. You are entitled, just don't get remarried. We'll talk about survivor benefits in a moment here. Survivor benefits have a little bit of a wrinkle to them. But if you want to get that divorce spouse benefit, do not get remarried before the age of 60. Okay, don't get remarried before the age of 60. Okay, survivor benefits. Okay, survivor benefit depends on two things. One, when did the deceased spouse originally file? Two, when did you as the surviving spouse go for the survivor benefit? So we're back to Jack and Jill. Here's his benefit at $2,400. He dies at age 70, or maybe later. Maybe he waited all the way to 70 and he got all those delayed credits. He got all those cost of living adjustments. He got $2,976 a month. That's now Jill's survivor benefit if she waits till full retirement age, her full retirement age. So folks, a real world example, I am almost 6 years older than my wife, Crystal, which means I'm 70, she's 64 and a half. If I die at 70 and she wants to get 100% of my benefits, she has to wait till she turns 67 to get that benefit package. Okay. She can take it earlier. And actually, you can take a survivor benefit as early as age 60, like you can see on the screen. But just remember, with Social Security, one of the core themes with Social Security is you take a benefit early, guess what? Reductions apply and reductions are permanent. Okay, and in this case, it's kind of a double whammy. If we look at Jack here, Jack filed at 62, he dies. Well, if Jill takes a benefit at 60, she's only getting $1,700 a month, right? Look what happens though. You can see when she turns 63, she will never get more than $1,980. And that is because he filed at 62. So she has no incentive to wait. In fact, the only reason she would wait till full retirement age is if she's working and making more than about $65,000 a year, like we talked about earlier with the withholding. Now, let's say Jack's 10 or more years older than her. He dies. Okay. Jill turned 60. He waited till 70 for his benefits. Well, now Jill's getting $2,128 a month if she takes the survivor benefit at 60. Remember, though, she doesn't have to wait all the way to 70 to get his maximum benefit. All she has to do is go to her full retirement age. Then she'll get that maximum benefit. When can you take that survivor benefit? Remember, as early as 60. If your spouse dies before you turn 60, you can take it at 60. Just remember, they're going to reduce it. And you do have to have been married at least 9 months unless death occurred as the result of an accident. So hopefully we don't have any stories about someone falling down the stairs tonight. Just saying. Just saying. Okay. You will get one or the other. You do not get to keep your benefit and get the survivor benefit once your spouse dies. The rule here, folks, is the smaller benefit dies when the first spouse dies. I'm not going to take you through the whole slide here. In fact, we are recording this. It's going to be posted to our YouTube channel, which, by the way, while I'm thinking about it, go to YouTube if you've got another screen open, look up Mission Financial Planners, subscribe and like. Okay, just subscribe to our YouTube channel while we've got your attention, because this exact presentation you're seeing right now is going to be on that YouTube channel at least by the end of the day, Thursday. But here we have Jack and Jill. Jack's benefit's about $3,000. Jill's is $1,200. You can see between the two of them, they're getting about $4,200 a month. Jack dies. Jill dies. Doesn't matter who dies first. That $1,200 benefit will stop. The surviving spouse will continue to get the $2,976. That tax advantaged income that gets cost of living adjustments applied to it is going to reduce, in this family's case, by about $15,000 a year in the first year. Divorces, just remember, marriage lasted at least 10 years, currently unmarried, or you got remarried after the age of 60. This is the key reason why you want to remarry after 60. It's because if you get remarried after 60, you still preserve survivor benefits from earlier marriages. We affectionately call this the Kelly rule. We have a good client of ours whose name is Kelly. She's a very good friend of mine. I've known her for a very long time. And she was with her partner for many, many, many years. They never got married. And she always said part of the reason she wasn't going to get married is her ex whom she was married to for 11 years, well, guess what? He made and has had a very lucrative career. She is preserving the survivor benefit for herself. Well, the person she was with for a long time, they ultimately never married, but she is still holding to her guns on that, or sticking to her guns on that. She's going to wait till after 60 to get remarried. So if you think you might outlive your spouse or your ex, you want to encourage your spouse to wait for their retirement. Wait as long as they can. If they can go all the way to 70, that's great. What our perspective is on this is that you have to make this decision in the context of your bigger plan. What are the other income sources you already have lined up? How does your investment portfolio look? What are you comfortable with from a behavioral psychology standpoint, right? Like, we don't want you taking so much risk that suddenly you're very worried about your portfolio. What is your insurance plan? What's the tax plan? What's the estate plan? It's all those things Ken talked about. The decision to claim Social Security will be directly influenced by all that stuff. Maybe 70 makes sense. Maybe it doesn't. And there's a host of valid reasons why it doesn't. And I know we've talked a lot about the value of waiting tonight, but you need to make this decision within the context of your bigger plan. And that's what we specialize in, is helping you with the bigger plan. You want to claim your survivor benefit at full retirement age or later. You also want to coordinate it with your own retirement plan. Coordinating survivor benefits, okay? Just keep in mind you've got a switching opportunity here. If your spouse dies and you haven't filed yet, you've got the opportunity to really take a benefit now, but get a bigger benefit later. Bottom line, you can see it in red there. Take the biggest benefit last. I'll show you a couple examples here. So we have Linda. Linda's benefit is $1,000 a month. Her spouse died. Her spouse had $2,200 a month for their survivor, or for their benefit. What could Linda do? Well, guess what? She could file for her own benefit at 62, take that till she turns 67, and then once she hits that magical full retirement age, she can switch over and get 100% of her deceased spouse benefit. Just remember, she doesn't get 1,000 plus 2,200. She gets 1,000 reduced for taking it at 62. So she gets that reduced number all the way through 67, but at 67, now she can switch and get the bigger benefit. Here we have Dora. Dora's benefit is bigger than her spouse's. Okay, her spouse died. What could Dora do? Dora could file as early as 60 on that spousal benefit, or excuse me, on that survivor benefit, and then just wait till 70 to get her own much larger benefit later on. Not a bad way to approach it, right? So you can see here, you've got the ability to switch. Keep in mind, either one of these, don't forget about that withholding I talked about. If you're making more than about $65,000 a year, it's not going to make sense to file because they're just going to withhold the entire benefit anyway. Okay, Social Security and remarriage. Just remember, remarriage at any age will cancel out the divorced spouse benefit unless the marriage ends. Remember the Omaha lady, right? 3 exes. Hey, all those marriages had ended. You have to be unmarried to get the divorced spouse benefit. Remarriage before 60 will cancel out survivor benefits and divorced spouse survivor benefits. Remarriage after 60 does not cancel them out. That's the Kelly rule, right? So think about number 1 is the Omaha lady. Number 3 is Kelly. Okay, just remember, Kelly's waiting till 60 to preserve that bigger survivor benefit. The Omaha lady, under bullet point 1, she was the one that was no longer married, so now she could kind of pick and choose benefits because all of her marriages had lasted at least 10 years. Okay, if you still are able to talk to your ex, right, talk to them. See if they can afford to wait, especially if you think you might need the money, right? Again, if you're still negotiating, if you're working with a divorce attorney, you're going to need to get Ken involved in that conversation because your divorce attorney might not be thinking about Social Security and putting it in the agreement that your soon-to-be ex is going to wait for Social Security age for you, right? And what I'm saying there is to make sure you get the biggest benefit possible. Okay. If your spouse or ex-spouse has died, just remember, compare your benefit to the survivor benefit. Take the bigger benefit last. Remember, you can take the smaller benefit first and then get the bigger one later. Do not get remarried before the age of 60. Okay, we are in the home stretch, folks. So advice for women by marital status. Currently married, coordinate, coordinate, coordinate. Make sure you talk with each other about this. Make sure you both know what you're going to do. Okay, if you're divorced, make sure you understand what the benefit is that you're eligible for. For divorced spouses, sometimes this can get a little messy, right? If you have the divorce decree and your ex's social security number, you can call Social Security and ask them, what am I eligible for while that person is alive? What am I eligible for once they die? They have to tell you. If the person you are speaking with, whether this is in person or over the phone, if they say you're not eligible, if they give you an answer that doesn't make sense, make sure you speak with a supervisor. The reason why is the supervisors have been there long enough. They're a little better trained. A lot of times the frontline people just haven't been trained. They just don't know the rules as well. If you're a surviving spouse, just remember about coordination. Take the bigger benefit last. Every now and then someone tells me, hey, I've never been married. I don't really feel like this presentation has applied to me. I strongly disagree. You've got to maximize your own benefit. You absolutely have to do a financial plan to figure out what is the best choice for me with this benefit. Is there one less, person in the equation? Sure. But all these principles we talked about, cost of living adjustments, lower benefit if you file early, bigger benefit if you file late, impact of that bigger benefit later on, impact of that smaller benefit later on. All that stuff still applies to you, maybe even more so when you're a single person. And again, anyone who has a spouse who's deceased, don't forget you can take that benefit as early as 60. Okay, don't forget extra long life. Remember what we talked about. Look at that 90, 95 range. You're going to live longer than you thought. Kaiser's done studies on this. Mayo Clinic's done studies on this. When it comes to longevity, guess what, folks? Your parents' history, your genetics are only 25% of the factors that determine your longevity. The other 75% are your lifestyle. So for those of us who were wild and crazy in our youth, it's going to catch up with you. If you weren't, hey, great, you're going to live to 105. Social Security, inflation adjusted income for as long as you live. It's going to be there. Plan on it. Make sure you understand how it works. Make sure you make the best decision for your plan. Do not forget the decisions you make now are going to have a huge impact later on. Every now and then someone says, yeah, I'm 57. I'm at least 5 years out. I shouldn't be worrying about this, or it's too far out for me. I completely disagree with that statement. In your mid to late 50s is an ideal time to be getting to know Social Security, but also to be getting your investments in line, your income in line, your insurance in line. So when you are retiring, you are ready to go and the pieces are already in place. You're not scrambling at the end. You're like the lady Ken talked about at the beginning of the episode, at the beginning of tonight's class, right? That lady who can just walk in and retire. That didn't happen overnight. Right? In most cases, it takes several years to get everything lined up. Work with a team like Mission Financial Planners to make that happen. We've talked about this a lot. If you delay, you're going to get a bigger check later on. Coordinate. Okay. Don't forget about some of the switching opportunities with the survivor benefit. I know I've said it a few times. I'll say it one more time. The smaller benefit, take that one first. If you're in that situation, wait for the bigger benefit later. Don't forget, if you're working and making more than about $65,000 a year, they're going to do withholding as long as you're under full retirement age. And again, just to reinforce, you need a plan. Like Ken talked about, there's 5 key areas. I know that's 10. Okay, 5. There's 5 key areas that you need to be thinking about. There's income, there's your investments, there's your insurance plan, your tax plan, and your estate plan. Don't forget, if you're going through a divorce, right, or your spouse dies unexpectedly, now you've got some family planning you've got to do. Maybe you're a business owner as well. Now you got to think about that. How does selling my business fit into my retirement plan? That's where we would want to bring our partner Jason Defoe in, because that's one of his specialties, is helping people coordinate the sale of their business with their retirement plan and with their tax plan as well. So we are holistic financial planners. We are Mission Financial Planners. And we are here to help you. That's what we do. And if you want to make informed financial decisions, this is just the first step. We've got a couple of other workshops coming up in the next 3 weeks, really. Tomorrow at noon Central, which is 10 a.m. Pacific, we're hosting a business continuation webinar, specifically we're going to focus specifically on succession issues and valuation. And then on Wednesday, March 12th, we're going to talk about the Secure Act and how that changed tax planning for a lot of people as they get to retirement age. Now, I don't know if Ken's back with us yet or not. I don't believe he is. Yes, there he
Oh,
is.
always. Never fail.
Perfect. So, Ken, I mentioned earlier in the presentation, there's going to be a brief handout or an email coming out with a
Hmm.
couple of key pieces of information we need for that Social Security analysis. And I stressed earlier, all we need to know is what you're going to get at full retirement age and put your age in. That form will let you just put those two numbers in if that's really all you want to do. But Ken, can you talk a little bit more about that and when they're going to get that?
Absolutely. So it should be coming early tomorrow morning. It'll say it's either from myself or Miss Casey Brown, one of our staff. Um, it also should say that it's coming from Precise FP, but quite simply, it's a form. As soon as you click the link, it'll ask you to send you a text message. So it has two-factor authentication. So everything you're sending us is secure. Once you do that, there's the three questions. It's really your age, your spouse's age, to Matt's point, what you earn from Social Security at 67. And then high level, do you have any other concerns above and beyond Social Security that you'd like to talk about? We would like to have that within 2 business days of your Social Security scheduled Social Security analysis. I know some of you are scheduled later this week. Don't worry. Mostly that's for the people next week. So over the weekend we can plug and chug some of the numbers in advance of our meeting, and we can really just focus on you, the questions, your thoughts, what you liked about it, and then see where the conversation takes us.
All right. Thank you, Ken. And please reach out to me or Ken directly if you do have questions. My direct number, and Ken, I'll ask you to give yours. My direct number, you can call or text me there. And like I've told all of you, I think, who have talked with me, if I'm logged out of our system, I can't see a text message. So just if I don't respond right away, it's just because I'm logged out. But my direct number is 726 727 6581. I'll say that one more time, 726 727 6581. I'm sure Ken's thrown it in the chat already. Ken, go ahead and give me your number.
726-727-6582. And
See?
if you'd like to call Jason about some either complex tax or business owner issue, he's 83.
There you go. There you go. Well, everyone, thank you so much. I told you we'd wrap up shy of 50 minutes or an hour, right? So we are at 52. Ken, did we have any questions that come in?
No, this is a pretty quiet night tonight overall, but looks like everything went smoothly. Yeah, looks good.
Okay, fantastic. Well, everyone, we'll let you wrap up and get on with your night. Hopefully, everybody had a great meal. Hopefully, you learned a lot. And if you think you learned a lot tonight, you're really going to learn a lot when we do your one-on-one and you actually get to see how this applies to you. So thank you so much. Have a great rest of your night, and we'll see you all within the next week or so. Ken, go
Oh,
ahead.
oh, right at the 11th hour. The Baby Boomers Guide to Social Security had outdated information regarding the WEP and GPO. Anything else that we should be aware of? Yes, yes, yes. So I am the resident pension expert. Worked a lot with educators across the country and also governmental employees who are most impacted by WEP, GPO. This law just passed weeks ago, and there was almost no expectation that it was going to pass, but it did over Christmas break, and then it was signed about 3 weeks after that, right before the administration shift. But long story short, if you think or if you know of anybody that was impacted by WEP or GPO, we need to talk with them. A 5 minute conversation can mean the difference between an extra $500 a month coming into their retirement, and some households up to $3,000 a month coming into their households. So yeah, huge revelation. And of course, sorry that the copies we sent out weren't fully up to date, but I hope you can forgive that. We'll get fresh copies soon.
Yeah, and to underline what Ken just said too, we didn't get the notice until today, like literally today, that the Social Security Administration was going to start making the adjusted payments reflecting that starting in March. Like literally, this has been just evolving since it got signed. So thank you for pointing that out. We are on the weapon, the GPO, and like Ken said, if you know someone that it applies to, have them get a hold of us. Like Ken said, this can have a huge financial impact for some households, especially people who worked, especially in California. parks and rec districts,
Mhm.
some municipalities, a lot of school districts never paid into Social Security. Well, guess what? Now all those people who have those pensions are going to be eligible for survivor benefits off of their spouse's record. A lot of people who had de minimis earnings for Social Security are no longer going to be affected by the WEP. So this can have a big positive impact for a lot of people, just like Ken said. So thank you. Thanks for bringing that up.
Okay. Going once, going twice. Everybody, thank you for your time, your energy. There's nothing more valuable than that. Really look forward to talking with you all very soon.